Welcome to Seth's Daily Podcast. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. And thank you guys for subscribing. We're blessed enough to have Keith Age. How are you doing tonight,
I'm doing hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit, brother.
man? Appreciate you being on, man.
Again, thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
All right, man. For sure, dude. For sure. So, how did you get your start in ghost hunting, man?
Well, I am a musician by trade. I've toured the world since I was 16 years old and come back from touring all over the world when I was 17. Met a young lady who would never introduce me to her mom and dad, but you got to remember this was the 70s. So I had hair down past here and the full beard, the rock and roll look, and I just figured it's because the look she didn't want to say, "Hey, mom, dad, look who I'm bringing home." And on her birthday, her mom and dad invited me over. So got there, knocked on the door, and she turned white when she entered the door, and I was like, "Look, it's okay. Your mom and dad invited me." And she said, "No, you don't understand." She said, "Me and my sisters, we have a ghost in the house, and he doesn't like our boyfriends." And I went, "Yeah, right. Let's go smoke another one." And so we set this little ranch house just a mile down the road, and it looked like a perfectly normal house. And we sat on this couch, and you could see down the hallway into the master bedroom, and we could see our reflection in a mirror. And something kept walking past it and breaking it. And I'd go down there and look, and there's nothing down there, nobody. So I started being young, dumb, and stupid, and started calling this thing out. Saying, show me, do something, prove to me you're here. I don't believe in you. Do something. And this went on for a couple hours, and as it's time to go, we're standing. She and I are standing at the front door inside, and I've been over to give her a kiss goodbye, and something just went grab me right here, strong on the arm. And the first thing I thought of was, oh hell, Dad's got a hold of me. But he's sitting over in Lazy Boy. His eyes about that big. He knew what was getting ready to happen. And before I could do anything, I was flying backwards through the front door, through the screen door, and I landed about 6 feet out past the porch. And I remember just trying to go and what's broke, what's not, what's working, what's not, trying to get my breath. And then I just went, that was so cool. Do it again. And I've been hooked ever since.
That's a heck of a story, man.
Hey, that's the way it happened. So, uh, and I'm still close to that family, and several of them have died this year. And every time I go to the funeral home, they tell the story, and the ones that are still left alive, and people are just going, "Oh wow, cool! We knew the place was haunted. We just didn't know it was that haunted." So, and they ended up selling the place years later, and they couldn't keep anybody in it. Then they tried renting it for a while, and then one night it mysteriously burnt down. And ever since then, it's a vacant lot.
Wow, man. That made you fall in love with ghost hunting, though.
Oh yeah.
I can understand that because that experience made me fall in love with ghost hunting as well.
Oh, like I said, it was just I was hooked right then and there.
Yeah.
And of course, back then you had nowhere to really look for true ghost hunting. You could find all kinds of books and stuff on ghosts, ghost stories, UFOs, Sasquatch. You were lucky if you found a book by Hauser or Brooke or anybody else. And when you did, you just ate it up. And that was back in the days when if you said you were looking for a ghost, you had the guys in the little white coats with the great big nets running behind you going, "Come here, boy, let me talk to you."
Yeah, there probably wasn't very much equipment back then either.
Oh, no, nothing. The only thing were really that was then was uh, film cameras, which was very expensive to get produced and everything, and Dr. Gauss meter, and there wasn't very many Gauss meters at all.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's awesome though, man. Ghost hunting is awesome. Uh, well, me and
It,
you was actually talking. Both of us have been to the Cynthiana Opera House.
Ross,
Oh, my bad.
the Ross Opera House. Yeah,
Yeah.
on the side of it is a 40 by 100-foot mural of the Walking Dead.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I forgot the name of it. I've not been there in like 15 years.
Hey, it's one of my favorite places to go to.
Yeah, it was very haunted, man. So, what kind of experiences have you had there?
All kinds of voices talking. We've had shadow people. We've actually caught thermal images of things on the stage. As I was telling you, I had a actor friend of mine who was there with me once. That he was upstairs in the old auditorium part that's still up there, and he was up there with just a Zoom microphone recorder and headphones, and his real name was Larry, and something said, and he heard it clear as day, and it recorded it. Look, Larry's here, and he about died. He come flying down them steps. Listen, dude, listen. So we've had all kinds of stuff.
Wow, man, that's crazy. That place is super haunted though. Isn't there a woman in white too that is seen there?
Some people said they have. I never have though.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that years ago.
Yeah. Uh, Mostly, what I think a lot of it is when they had a fire in the balcony and children got killed during all that. But I mean, Ross has got just some great history. I mean, Houdini played there, the original Houdini, and all bunch of different silent screen stars. That's how old this place is. It goes back to the 1800s.
Yeah, that place is awesome, man.
Yeah. So anybody ever wants to go, it's Ross ROHS Opera House in Cynthiana, Kentucky.
And you've also been to Waverly Place as well.
I'm the idiot that opened it up for everybody.
What's that?
I'm the idiot that opened up Waverly for everybody. When it was bought in early 2000, I made a deal with the owners that me and the little ghost hunter we help clean up everything if we could investigate. And I'm the guy that created the tours that are still going on up there and a lot of other different things. And you heard the stories about the guy getting hit with the bricks up there.
Yeah.
That's me. I've had my head busted open several times.
Yeah, man. What
So the
other
very
experiences have you had there?
very first shadow people ever caught on film, we caught that when we were filming Spook: The Ghost of Waverly Hills. Uh, they started out by filming just an independent horror movie called Death Tunnel, and the very first thing they brought to me, I was just somebody, helping them with their film, and they were like, "Check this out, man!" What was called the dailies. They watched what they filmed the day before, and they shot what I call the obligatory big boob blonde in the shower scene inside the hospital, and they just hooked up a hose and a nozzle, and they about drowned this poor girl. They shot it 26 times because every time something black would come in from either side, left or right, and just stop. And they did everything they could think of, technically to get rid of this problem. And finally, they said, "Look at this. What do you think this is?" And I said, "Well, it's a shadow person. Welcome to my world." And Philip Booth, in his best British accent, goes, "Well, what's he doing in my shop, mate?" And I said, "I guess he liked the view." And that is actually how Spook: The Ghost of Waverly Hills got started. from going from this independent horror movie to where the Booth brothers went, this is crazy. And if you go watch uh, Death Tunnel, and the EVPs that you hear in Death Tunnel are real EVPs that they actually caught.
That's crazy, man. Yeah,
But
Waverly
yeah,
Hills is an interesting place.
oh yeah, I've been all over the world doing this. So yeah,
But Waverly Hills is probably your favorite place to investigate.
no, I did it for 5.5 years. Like I said, I was the first, and open it up for everybody. And I'm glad they're where they're at now. But there's a place in Middletown, Ohio called Poasttown Elementary School. That's one of my real favorite places. Roz is one of my favorite places. I've got several. Ponary Castle, Dracula's real castle in Transylvania, Romania, is one of my favorite places. I love to go into that.
That sounds
Uh,
awesome, man. So, what kind of experiences did you have there?
well, it's the history of it, and I only caught one thing on film that I can't explain, and that's when you go down into the battlements underneath. There's this great big sign in Romanian. I can't read it, but it's a big sign with red letters on it. I mean, it's like 8 foot across, 6 foot tall. As I'm getting down to the bottom of the steps, so I can't read it, but I take a picture of it. And I'm look on the way back home on the plane. I'm looking at the pictures, and there's a black form standing in front of it, completely black. You can't see through it. It doesn't give off a flash. No reflection, no nothing. You can tell there's a head and shoulders, and there's something there. Other than that, like I said, other than that, the 2,600 steps up and down, that was enough, for me.
You also had a 10 episode series on a Sci-Fi Channel.
We've had 10 movies we filmed for Sci-Fi Channel. Like I said, the first one was called Spook that goes to Waverly Hills, and then Children of the Grave and The Possessed, The Haunted Boy, Children of the Grave 2. I'm leaving some out just because I'm tired.
Uh, that had to be fun though.
Oh, I loved it. I loved filming with the Booth brothers, and we still talk and get along. And we're this is actually the 20th anniversary of Death Tunnel filming it, and we're talking about maybe doing something later this year together.
That'd be legendary, man, for sure.
Well, it'd be something. Hopefully, it'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it'd be fun for the viewers too, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, what was the craziest thing you caught on camera during that series?
When we were filming Children of the Grave, we were filming at a orphanage in Ohio, and you had to be very careful where you stepped because it should have been condemned. They had rented it out to a Halloween person, and they'd cut the main support posts and have the whole center part of the building collapsed. So you had to go up the fire escape to get in and out either one side of the wings. And while we were up there filming, which I love using thermal imaging, because that is a true science. I'm not psychic any way, shape, or form. If I was, when things were thrown and hit me in the head, I would have ducked. But we sit there and we're filming, and the psychic is doing oh, I feel this, I feel that. And Scotty Rourke's a real good friend of mine, but it's not good to leave me with a camera in my hand and let me get bored. So I just started shooting around with the thermal imager, and there's a guy holding a light bar up against the wall. And all of a sudden I noticed something weird was going on next to him on the wall, and the wall was just swirling. And then he got the guy here, he's in color, showing off heat and stuff. You can see his hand holding the bar. And then over here on this side of the wall, the same shot, his duplicate appeared, but he was cold, 30 degrees colder. And I told him, I said, lift your hand. And when he did, this other thing would lift its hand too. And for 9 minutes, this went on. And finally, this thing just kind of turns, looks at the guy, and walks away, walks out of the shot. And we sent it to FLIR, who made the thermal imager, and they're the one that created the whole technology. And said, "What is this?" And they're like going, "We don't know." I'm like, "Look, I'm just a ghost hunter. I'm not the scientist. Tell me what this is." And they're like, "We don't have an explanation for it." So I called it the Peter Pan effect.
That's some awesome evidence, though.
Oh, it's fantastic. If you ever want to watch it, go check out Children of the Grave.
Wow.
Or
Have you
excuse me,
ever?
Children of the Grave 2.
Oh yeah. Have you ever been ghost hunting in Eastern Kentucky before?
Have you ever been where?
Eastern Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Actually went Bigfoot hunting up there once.
Oh yeah. Where at?
Little town just outside of Medford.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Found a bunch of trees that had been bent over and put into shapes and forms. They weren't pulled out of the ground. They were just bent over, like something was either sitting on the top of it or sitting under it. And I say it was a bear, but friends of mine who were with me said it wasn't a bear. In the distance, we could, in a little bit of a clearing part, we could see something that stood up, but it was so far away. Even with zoom on the camera, we couldn't zoom in on it. And it looked, you could see what looked like a big head, great big shoulders. And they're like, look, it's a Bigfoot. And I'm like, no, probably a bear. So,
Yeah, man. This is definitely Squatch country down here.
well, when it comes to squatches or Sasquatch, I don't abbreviate Sasquatch, UFOs. I think there's something out there. We just don't know what it is. Same way with ghost hunting. I don't really use the term ghost anymore because we don't know what it is. We have just barely scratched the surface of any of this stuff. You know,
Yeah. So do you think there's a connection between Bigfoot and Ghost?
I don't know. I mean, there is that possibility when you theorize it, but I don't know. When we were filming uh, Soul Catcher, we were out in the Badlands, and I ran into something, and I didn't have a camera with me. We just got there to Indian Village, and the whole town, like they just got up at one time and left. Houses were still there, plates, food, stuff was still on the table, what was left of it, and 4 inches of dust on everything. But me and the Indian guide who was with me, we were standing outside, and the eave of this house is like 10 feet tall. And I looked up and I could just see like two red dots. And I thought somebody was messing with a laser pin or something. And all of a sudden, this thing just started moving. And it went all the way across the yards into this field and then on into the woods. And it lost it there. I was like, have no idea what that is. And the Indian guide said, that's such and such a Sasquatch. Really? Yeah, okay. When he shakes my hand, I'll believe it.
Native Americans and Bigfoot have a connection for sure.
They claim they do. I'd love to see it. Who knows?
Yeah, man, Bigfoot hunting is real fun though. I've never been, but I had a friend from my county that Bigfoot hunted for like 25 years and stuff. Stuff he said he seen, man, was crazy.
Well, the closest thing I've come to a real Bigfoot hunt was do you know who Kane Hodder is?
Mm-mm.
He played Jason on Friday the 13th several times. And him and I have been friends for a long, long time. We were going to go hunt for the creature from Boggy Creek in Fouke, Arkansas. And we had put together a list of stuff we wanted. And we had two Mossberg 50/50 fully choked automatic shotguns and uh, supplies for 2 weeks, tent and everything. And we were going to go do it and film it. And then the money fell through, and we didn't never got to do it. But Fouke, Arkansas is one of my favorite places to go to. I go do a gig every year called the Arkansas Paranormal Expo, and it's just really big. Ken Gerhardt's a good friend of mine, and Ken's about the best in the world when it comes to cryptozoology. Him and Lyle Blackburn. And it's usually me and Ken, a couple others, and Heather from New Expedition X. She's there, and it's just a good time. It's in October.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, man.
It can be until something eats you.
Hopefully that doesn't happen.
It come close a couple times while we were filming Soul Catcher in this abandoned Indian town. We went into a little school, and it was getting dark, and the only light I had at the time was my thermal imager, black and white thermal, or not black and white, but just a black and white screen. So I was kind of blinded by this little bitty screen trying to see. And we went through there. It was me, a guy named Adrian behind me, his wife Tina, a guy named Red. Well, the minute I walked onto Indian land, they took my gun away from me because white people can't have weapons on Indian land. So we walk in there and we get, about 50, 60 feet. And we're walking through these makeshift classrooms and stuff. And I step on what I think is a stick. And when I step on it, you hear a, and I stop and I turned around to Adrian. I said, dude, I hope that's your belly growling. He goes, no, I was hoping it was yours. And I said, well, for safety's sake, let's back out of here until we get some more light in here. And as I step back, I'm dropping the thermal camera and it's filming. And I step on this stick again. The growl happens again. And we get out of there. And we're looking at the dailies the next day. And you see all this going on. And you see me dropping the camera. And I was backing out. And then right beside my leg, my right leg, something just lights up bright because it's hot. And I'm like, well, what is that? So we're all looking at it going, I don't know, I don't understand. And we end up flipping the image over. It's a mountain lion with his mouth open like this. I've stepped on his tail twice. So yeah, ghost hunting can be fun till you get it.
That's a scary experience for sure.
Well, the guy that had my gun, he's like, I would have shot that cat. I said, dude, my 45 holds 15 in the clip. You just shot every one of us before you'd even touch that cat. I said, he'd had lunch for a month.
Yeah, that's definitely scary, man, for sure.
That's why you don't go into places by yourself and things like that. You want to be safe. You want to have a modicum of some type of security. We're filming The Possessed. We were walking through Zombie Road, which was all forest. And there's actually lions and tigers and bears out there that can eat you, and coyotes. That was real fun. We were being hunted by a pack of coyotes. Again, no weapon because we had the permits to be out there, but the cops took our guns away from us. So all I had was an asp and a knife, and that was all I had.
Man, that'd be real scary for sure.
Uh, I'm an old musician from the 70s. and I ain't got no brain cells left to be scared. I usually kind of keep walking towards something, the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the '70s. I lived it on up into the 2000s. So yeah,
But that's the stuff that people don't see behind the scenes when you're filming ghost stuff.
no, and not everything is paranormal. And people go, well, you got a TV show, and I'm like, I've had several. I said, doesn't that's the deal I made with the Booth brothers was before we even started filming. If I could prove what something was, that's what they said. This is what we think it is. If I can't prove it, then they say this is what we don't know what it is. And that was something they always kept their end of the bargain with.
Definitely, man. Some stuff isn't paranormal, like you say.
Well, fear, adrenaline, and paranoia go a long way to make a ghost appear.
Yeah, like sometimes orbs is dust.
Well, yeah, I am not an orb person at all. I
Really?
got I got stabbed over an orb picture once. Oh yeah,
Really?
oh yeah. At a convention, well, and people walk up all the time with pictures and say, "What do you think this is?" And this woman walked up with what was clearly a dust orb, and I told her it's a dust orb, and I handed it back to her and said, that's my dead aunt Petunia. I'll never forget that name, Petunia. And and as I leaned forward to explain to her about the flash, I felt up, and I went, "What?" I looked down. I have a 2-inch by 8-inch knife jammed into my chest, and I went to actually swing and couldn't swing because it was lodged into my arm socket. And I ended up swinging with my left arm and put her down. And she just got out of prison a couple of years ago. It's for attempted murder. But I still got the knife. I kept the knife. It's my steak knife now.
That's crazy, man.
Again, ghost hunting can be fun.
All over a orb, but you are right, man. Most orbs are dust.
When you can recreate something 99.9% of the time, it's not paranormal in nature. And, I went to college for photography, and, you know, not much has changed in that field other than digital now, and but still has the same principles, and you can still get the same effects. And to prove my point, once I got up here and we were in a parking lot, and I picked up a handful of parking lot dust and told them, "Get your cameras ready." When they did, I counted to three and shoot, and I threw the dust up in the air. There's a million orbs everywhere, and they're like going, "Wow!" And I'm like, "No, it's all dust. It's just dirt." But your flashes are on, and you're so close to it, the dust is reflecting.
Yeah, and also bugs can look like orbs as well.
Yeah, bugs. You know, that's when I teach. That's something I'm really big on. Rick Hayes and I do what's called the Knowing series, where we go to different places. He teaches the psychic side of the paranormal, and I teach the non-metaphysical side using gear. And I tell people, whether you're into EVPs or photography or video, know what your gear does, know what it was built for, how it works, why it works. That'll help you understand what you're capturing, what you're not.
Definitely, man. There's a lot of people who think they're actually catching, like you said, their relatives and stuff with orbs, but really it's just dust or bugs.
Yeah, but you don't stab somebody over it.
That's crazy, man.
Oh yeah, if you're in the same room, I'd show you the scar. And hang on just a second, I got to turn this heater off.
Oh, you're good, man. Yeah, I can't believe you got stabbed over an orb, man.
I'm sorry.
I said I can't believe you got stabbed over an orb.
Oh yeah, like I said, she served 17 years. Yeah, that's wild. It was almost 80 degrees yesterday, and had turned the heater on to this evening.
Y'all
It's
love
30.
Kentucky weather, man.
Oh yeah, welcome. Like you said, you're in Eastern. I'm in right in the
Yes,
middle.
sir. Yes, sir, man. So, what is your thoughts on residual energy as well?
Well, again, we don't know what this is. There's intelligent times things are, they answer you directly back to the question you've asked. And then, residual is like a broken record. It just keeps playing the same thing over and over and over again. And, we've caught it. We just don't know what it is, or why it happens. Is this some type of time infraction you know, or what? Um, when you capture something paranormal, truly paranormal, that's when I found that a lot of people are just actually hooked at that point.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you get an intelligent response for sure. With like a ghost box or something. Ghost box is my favorite thing to use. Was my favorite thing to use.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big proponent on it because a lot of when it first came out, I knew Frank, who built the first 21 boxes, the originals. Um, and I actually had one of the originals, and I'll be honest, when starts talking, what I hear is wah 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 wah. That's what I hear. And then I've had some people doing events going, it says the devil is coming for Keith Age tonight. And I'm going, I didn't hear that. And all these people are going, ah, it just scared the hell out of them. And I just like, well, if it's going to happen, show it, prove it. Let me get a camera set up, you know, and I have yet to see it. Now, my buddy Brian Kano, he has gotten some good results. I've heard them from him, but I haven't heard it live. I've heard the recordings, and I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just saying I haven't had good results with it, but I might not have found a machine that I like yet. You know, uh, my best friend John Tincher, him and I did a lot of traveling together, and a lot of ghost hunting, a lot of playing music together. And he had actually built his own. And if John Tinter tells me he hears this or he hears that, I would just automatically believe him. No ifs, ands, or buts. And he said there are a few things. And then right after John died, John had been here at the house a couple times, and as we had just bought it, and John and I had a code word that we used a lot, which is buddy talk. And we used it for whether we're talking about music, women, ghosts, whatever. And it was just a code word between him and I. And we were sitting here in the house one night, and various few things were happening, but I wasn't willing to say, okay, this place is haunted. And then I heard that code word, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what's this? A couple minutes later, I turned my recorder on and actually got it recorded. And I played it back for his sister, and she just bust out crying. She said, "Oh my God, that's John!" And she said, I've heard y'all say that between the two of you, and you know, John did not die here. He actually had a massive heart attack at the Hannah House doing an investigation, but he died in the hospital. But and again, that goes to, is this wishful thinking on my part? You know, why would he come back here? You know, he'd only been here a few times.
Yeah. It could have possibly been demonic too.
Nah, I have yet to see a demon. You know, I think demons are more what you make them than what they are. And like I said, fear, adrenaline, and paranoia go a long way to make a ghost appear. And I think it's especially true with demon, especially now with all the TV shows go, it's a demon, you know. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. You know, ratings, 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 ratings. You know, that's what that is. And I just can't get over a lot of these people who do that stuff.
For views and stuff.
Do what?
For views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's just like I said, that's just somebody trying to get ratings. And then getting possessed at every place you go to, give me a break. Those people need to be shot. Just put them out of their misery.
I definitely appreciate you being on though, man.
Hey, again, like I said, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. I want to thank Keith H for being on. Everybody have a good night and God bless.